From the noises all around me, you can hear that I'm in a mechanic's yard. I'm about to have the brakes looked at, which is very, very necessary, both for my peace of mind and just general safety. So I've brought the van down to Next Service in Burnaby, and they're going to take a full look at the brakes and a couple other things. Okay, so the van is going up on the hoist here. They're going to do a full brake inspection, and it sounds like getting parts in Vancouver is a lot easier than it was in Cranbrook. So I've got the van back from the mechanic. It was there all day. As is typical with this van, things are always a little harder to work on than when you first expect, but that's just pretty typical. I really liked the mechanics who worked on it. The guy who was running the shop was excellent. Made sure to explain things and to try and keep the cost down as much as possible, which I always appreciate. So they had there all day, and they were basically able to take a full look at the brakes, figure out exactly what was wrong, and then fix those problems. So we went on a test drive at the beginning, we went on a test drive afterwards. Things are feeling nice and smooth. There's no more grabbing of the brakes, and I feel safe driving this vehicle now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take you outside, give you a brief rundown of what it was that they did to the vehicle, and that'll be that. Okay, this is where my parking brake splits off. You can see that this threaded rod here is used for adjustment. So you would assume that somewhere along here would be where it connects, but it actually is one thread less than on this bolt. I installed this, but I installed it using the part that was given to me by a mechanic. Really not happy with any of the work that they did on the vehicle, but yeah, that's the problem with that line there. But right on the last one here, it seems to work. This caliper here gave me no end of trouble. So we've just replaced this and the brake hose, which was about ready to actually break at the seam there. And this little key here that was sliding out hopefully shouldn't do that anymore. Things have been seated properly. And then a brand new rotor has been put in. You can't really see it here too well. It's a coated rotor. That really needed to be done. The old one was really messed up. So new one in there, and it's all looking good on this end, nice and smooth. There's a little bit of a sound coming from it, but that's because of the coating on the rotor, which should come off, and that should go away. So I actually lost my wheel simulator here on the way to the mechanic, but it makes keeping an eye on this nice and easy. So they were actually able to solve a lot of the problems I was having. They replaced the wheel seal, all that. This is not having any problems. One of these bolts here, though, is apparently not torquing down all the way. So we're going to wait, see if it develops a leak like it did last time, and then we'll helicoil it. But it should be good for there. The brakes on this side that we're grabbing, that was due to the parking brake, and some of the pieces that I installed weren't seated properly in this side of the brake. So they've fixed those issues, and it's not grabbing, which is a beautiful feeling. Absolutely wonderful. So yeah, the only thing I need to do is keep an eye out for that external leak here. It's not leaking on the inside, so it's not going to contaminate the brakes or anything like that. So it is safe to be driving on it right now. That is basically it. They did a few other things as well and checked some stuff that I asked them to. Yeah, they did really good work. It feels amazing. I didn't drive it very far to get to the park that I'm staying at tonight. So tomorrow will be a real test. And of course, if anything goes wrong, I can always bring it back to them. Yeah, great shop, great attention to detail, and just great customer service. So I'm really happy with that. So the other day I painted the wood stove because it wasn't looking so hot, pun intended. It was kind of, yes, Luna, it was kind of getting a little bit sort of rusty in places. It was imperfect. So I bought some high heat gloss enamel at work. You just spray it on, and I'm thinking this looks a lot better. The pipe too looked really bad before, and now it's just sort of one solid black. It's not a perfect job, but it looks loads better than it did before. This package arrived for me today. It is one of those Chinese diesel heaters that are kind of becoming a bit of a fad in van life. I bought one of these because the wood stove, which I absolutely love, is not a good solution for keeping Luna warm when I'm not here, when I'm gone at work, that type of thing. So I've purchased this. It was about $250. I bought it on Amazon, and it came early, which is awesome. So I'm going to set it up because it was 10 degrees when I woke up today, and you know, it's only going to get colder. Okay, so I have a box full of hoses and wires and stuff, and then the heater and a little tiny muffler that's so cute. This thing is super small. It was really hard to tell from the pictures because nothing was to scale. This sort of is the same size as this in the picture, and you know, it's kind of hard to tell. So that's maybe a foot across. Like, these are teeny. This is perfect. I've been going over the guide here. Some things are kind of unclear, so I'm going to have to kind of figure this out a little bit as I go along. But one thing's very obvious, and that this is a mounting plate. So I've just installed this. I figure the more things I can assemble now, the less likely I am to lose parts. So basically, this is upside down, and that's marking this is the fuel, but I don't know which one is which for these intakes here. One's an exhaust and one's an intake. Yeah, don't know which one it is though. I've been thinking about where I want to put this, and the place that makes the most sense to me is in the toilet. Right now I have the toilet bucket right there that goes in here for the composting toilet, and then I have this bucket here, which is full of sawdust. Well, not very full at the moment. I need to get some more. But there's a lot of wasted space in here. Basically, it just sits on top of this stool. So my plan is to take the stool out, put the heater in here. This gives me access to the outside. The battery's just down there. And then I was thinking that I could put my fuel tank in here where I have my water tanks. And then I would just fill that up with like a small jerry can or something like that for now, and run the tube. You can really easily run a tube through here into here. I'll have to get a new bucket for my sawdust and work out a new system for that, but I think that's sort of like, this is a huge waste of space, and I mean, this bucket can be really easily replaced. And I just think there's a better system that can be done here. Okay, so I've kind of figured things out here. Careful reading of the manual and then a look at this picture here has sort of sorted things out. So this pulls in air to be heated, heats it, exits this way. Over here, this brings in air for combustion, and this is the exhaust that comes out here, fuel line. These need to go through holes down there underneath of the vehicle. One thing I'm wondering here is how do I want to make sure the air for heating works? So what I mean by that is, obviously I want to cut an exhaust here for hot air to come out of. It'll come out here and, you know, heat up the room basically. But where do I want air to come in from? Because you need to have a nice flow of air. That's something that I need to think about here. Obviously, it needs to come from inside the vehicle here somewhere. So either I need to add like a second one here, although then I might just create a little loop of air here, or I need to find some other way of ducting air in here. There is one thing I thought of before I start drilling any holes. I am circulating air from my toilet. That might not be the smartest idea, but it shouldn't be too big an issue. So, first of all, there isn't like a bad smell to the toilet. There is a smell, it just doesn't smell like a toilet. It smells like sawdust mostly, kind of like damp sawdust. Whether people believe me or not, that's up to you. I don't really care, but I can always partition this. So I can always put a wall in. What I mean by that is basically put a wall straight in here, seal it off so that the air is only circulating through here, and then it would literally just smell like sawdust. So I'm still going to go ahead with this. This is still the best place for it, but just something to bear in mind that I might need to make that change in the future. I've also just taken this mounting plate here, marked 2 holes for the vents here that I'm going to have to drill down through the bottom of the van. I have 2 holes here. One of them is all the way through, one of them isn't, but I went through 3 batteries just getting this far. It's a pretty thick bit of aluminum at the bottom, and my hole saw is really bad. So yeah, it's yeah, I'm kind of stuck. Haha! So I just gave it a couple taps on the edge with a cold chisel and it popped right out. It must have been almost all the way through. So I have both holes drilled through there now. Okay, so I just have this sort of propped in place here. I just have it resting on some boards for now. This is where it's going to go, and then in this board here I will cut a vent. Obviously I can't do any more cutting today because my batteries are dead, but there we go. And then I figure what I'll probably do is I will cut some holes in here for ventilation, for it to go forward and backwards, etc. So I've just cinched down both of these tubes here. They have different ones for each one. I figure this one's probably for the metal since it's more heavy duty. This one obviously a lot less so. And I've also, attached this on properly, so now these can go through those holes. Obviously Luna is doing her job and helping out with construction. I made a wee bit of an oopsie here. I was drilling a hole for the fuel line because I've decided that will go outside the vehicle. Drilled it in the wrong spot, so had to go back and drill a second one. Not a big deal. Okay, so I've just countersunk some screws through these 2 little boards here. This is to keep it down as low as possible, and then everything should stick out through those holes, which is a little bit of a gap here that should allow for the mounting mechanisms and all that to have their places. Okay, so here I've attached the fuel hose here to the heater, and I've also just cut this piece here to act as a washer. This is so that it won't cut the actual hose when it goes through the floor of the van. There's a metal hole there, so this should act to protect it. Okay, so I've just slotted the heater with everything attached on the bottom through the holes there. I don't have the screws holding it down in place. I'll probably put those in dead last, just as it might be kind of a pain to put them in. Okay, underneath here are my 3 hoses that come down. Inlet, diesel, exhaust. This is my fuel pump. I've just mounted it here. It's really the only place for it. Unfortunately, it's kind of close to the exhaust, but it's the only place I can mount it. So I'm now going to hook that up to here. I've connected the fuel line so it passes through the fuel pump. This line here goes up to the actual furnace, and this one will go to the tank. I've hooked up the electrical system here to the fuel pump. Okay, so here you can see that the exhaust has been routed off towards the back. There's the pump, and then over here is where the intake is, pointing as far away from the exhaust as I can. And there's actually this little filter on the intake there so that you're not bringing in any dust or anything like that. Really handy thing to have. Okay, so here is where the fuel line comes back into the vehicle and into this fuel filter. Here is where I plan to have the diesel filter. It's right on the back here next to the propane. So this is going to go inside here, and then this line will take it down to the bottom of the tank. Okay, so I've just drilled a little hole in here that's exactly the same size as this outside diameter of this tubing. Okay, so here we go. I just added this little bit here so that I can adjust how far down the end goes in. You're supposed to leave a little bit from the bottom so that you don't basically suck up any sediment. So that means that I can easily adjust it. Well, it's definitely working, and I've just cut a hole here for it to vent out of. This little plastic bit here mounts in the hole that I cut. This bit here just clips into it and can be rotated. I've just connected the edge of the heater here with a little teeny bit of conduit to this vent. I've just drilled a hole through here so that these electrical connections can fit through. here is what this looks like fully installed. So this is my reading for temperature by the bed. 15.8 degrees Celsius and 42% relative humidity. So we're gonna see how well this does. I've turned on the heater, it's over there. I'm really low on power because I was parked under a tree when I did this, so I'm not turning the lights on. So yeah, we'll see how this works. I had it running earlier and it seemed to work really well. Okay, so it's been half an hour basically, and we are up to 21.3 degrees. That's pretty good. It's on high right now. That is definitely pretty quick. I'm gonna lower it probably. It's getting pretty warm. I know that this comes out pretty quickly. Also, probably use a little bit of less electricity. Hi, Luna. What do you think? You like the new heat? Okay, so here we go. It's registering 24 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure if that's at this monitor here or if that's an internal temperature or what that is. But it's also, you know, right above the vent here, which, oh man, that's way too hot. I've just lowered it down to the first setting because I just want to maintain a temperature overnight, and we'll see what the temperature is in the morning. It's morning, and I turned off the heater. I woke up at 2 in the morning and it was too hot, it was too dry in here, and I couldn't take it. So I turned it off, and yeah, so this is it in the morning. I've just turned it back on. There is a feature that I think I'll use next time where it will turn on at a specific time, and I think that makes sense, you know, to go to sleep and then set it to turn back on, you know, half an hour before or I wake up. You can see here that I've drilled a bunch of holes here. This is just to add airflow, right? So that air can go in order to come out here. You know, another way is just to prop this up, but I think having a more permanent solution is a good idea. So I finally figured out how to set the time. It was kind of difficult. The instructions didn't say very well. To set the time, you hold these two buttons down, and then to turn the time on or off, you press these two. And then to check the time left, you press this. So I should have, 7.5 hours. I have to be up really early this morning or tomorrow morning for work. So hopefully this is on when I wake up. This little remote is amazing. It's got this little sleeve that covers up the buttons so you don't accidentally press anything. I have it hanging here by the bed, which is just fantastic. You can turn it on, off, up, or down. Mostly I just wake up in the morning like I did today, turn it on for a little bit, and then turn it off, which is amazing because it means I get to be super lazy and not get out of bed. So the heater has been a really good idea. It's really allowed me to be a lot more comfortable in this space, also to make sure that Luna's warm, especially overnight. I can figure out how to set it so that it can turn on at certain times or turn off at certain times. It's not the best system for that. You basically have to figure out how many hours you want it to be ahead. You can't really set it to always be at a certain time or anything like that, or to be multiple times going on and off overnight, which would be awesome. But even just saying that now, I mean, like, I used to have to get up and make a fire, so huge difference. Big fan of this thing. I think 5 kilowatt was too big. I think I probably should have gone for the 2 kilowatt, just because I would be able to leave it on low if I needed to. But it does use a lot of fuel. I'm using kerosene right now. That was like $30 for 10 liters. So that's quite expensive. When I was thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, that's like $3 for a liter of fuel, which is quite a bit more. It's over double what it would be to run it on diesel. So I'll definitely be running it on diesel from now on. But also it does suck up quite a bit. I think I saw someone online said it was 0.2 liters per hour on low, and sorry about the lighting here. Let me just see if I can get that to stop doing that. It was 0.2 liters an hour on low and 0.6 on high. Considering that I have a 10-liter tank, that's not, you know, that's pretty quick. You wouldn't get very much use out of if you always had it running. So, which I'm not using it right now. When it gets really cold, that might just be what I have to do with this. But I'm definitely getting the feeling that propane would be a cheaper fuel for sure. It's kind of the whole point of propane. But I really like the dry heat that the diesel has, how much it dries out the van when you run it. That's really giving me some confidence, as I'm seeing a lot of people, especially in Vancouver, van lifers, who are worried about the coming moisture problems and humidity, and I am as well. It's certainly something to be wary of, but I think that this diesel heater, in conjunction with the wood stove, definitely going to help me out. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers.